Before we get into it, I just want to say this isn't me making excuses for EDP. I didn't even really like his content that much, if I'm being honest. I thought sometimes he'd say something funny, but most of the time just kind of cringy, and yeah, he needs to go to jail. But I wanted to sort of talk about him as a person and what led him to where he went, because I find that stuff very interesting. You know, I find this sort of character study stuff very interesting because I find that a lot of people, when these allegations come out and when someone is revealed to be a or whatever, especially when it's in the case of EDP, where I think you have two types of pedos in this world, and it's just my opinion, okay? You have people who are born that way, and hopefully they can suppress their feelings, okay? Because it's not right whether you're born with it or not, whatever. And the second type is becoming a pedo through circumstances. And again, I'm not saying that makes it right, I'm just saying that's how it can happen, okay? And I think a lot of people forget that that can happen, and that when EDP is sort of revealed to be this pedophile, it's like, oh, you know, he's, oh, la, la, la. Like, you know, people don't just become pedophiles to become pedophiles, if that makes sense. People don't just wake up one day and go,
oh, hell yeah, I want to fuck a 13-year-old to ruin her life.
Like, I doubt that's what went through EDP's head. Now, I don't know, obviously, but just speculation, I doubt that's what went through his head. Whenever I watch this content, he always struck me as kind of an unstable person, someone on the brink of the edge, someone very desperate in their mental sense, in their sense of like, yeah, they have all this YouTube fame and whatever, but they seemed kind of depressed behind the veil, all right? And I feel like I'm kind of a good person to talk about this topic, not because I have pedophilic tendencies or anything, but because I have been depressed before in my life. In fact, I'm actually on medication for depression right now. Now, I don't think I'm nearly as far down the hole as EDP got, because, you know, you watch his videos and he just comes off as almost like psychotic at times, because he's like he's saying fuck like every 3 sentences. He's literally going, and the fucking this, and the fucking that, and, you know, let's be fucking real about it with the fucking, you know, like,
you're fucking attention, nigga. You're trying to get attention from fucking guys. You know what I mean? So shut the fuck up with that bullshit about, oh my God, you're a fucking creep. Oh my God, like, that's so fucking sickening. It's like, bitch, that's what her motherfucking intentions are. So shut the fuck up.
And I feel like there should be something going on in your brain for that to happen. Now, again, this is all just my opinion, but I've done a little bit of research on the whole EDP thing, and that's why I've come to these conclusions about what caused him to do what he did, essentially. And thankfully, it never actually turned into anything. Thankfully, it wasn't a real 13-year-old girl. But my first reasoning is his mother passing. So, you know, there's this video of him doing bench press and like getting really into it and stuff, and, you know, and I think it's his mother recording from what I can tell, okay? And he still seems like EDP, but he seems a little more happy, a little more like, you know, like he's laughing. And
On that fucking Sub-Zero shit.
Go for it.
all this stuff, like he's having interaction with another person and whatever, and, you know, and he looks a little bit lighter than he usually looks. Like, he still looks obese, but not as obese as, for example, he was in this video where he got caught. Okay, caught out to be a pedo. So his mother passed, and I think that then took away this sort of human relationship he had, in terms of one of the few human relationships he had on a regular basis. And then he started living alone, he got more lonely, and, you know, one of the things that these predator catchers said in that video that I really took an issue with, again, this isn't making excuses for EDP, but because those guys seem kind of shady themselves in a different way, but the one thing that I really took issue with from that dude with, like, you know, kind of like hair like mine but a bit shorter, was he's like, how can you be lonely? You've got millions of followers. It's like, that's so stupid. These are people on the internet that you don't even really interact with besides YouTube comments. You know, that is extremely different to having someone by your side in the same room. You know what I mean? Like, that's, what the hell? Like, if you think like that guy, you need to kind of reevaluate yourself, I think, because that's, having millions of followers on YouTube doesn't mean you can't be lonely, right? If you don't have real human interaction, a human relationship, but you got millions of followers on YouTube, of course you can be lonely. So I really think that a lot of this strive from him being lonely, and not just lonely, but lonely for female attention, if that makes sense. And, like, there's two types of people, or maybe like three types of people, who don't have a woman in their life, you know. There's the people who are involuntary celibates, if you want to call it that, an incel, which is what EDP was. There's the people who are kind of doing it on purpose, whether for religious reasons or otherwise. And there are people who are also just kind of not trying to get anywhere at the certain moment. Like maybe they're focusing more on work or whatever, you know. So that's your three types. EDP fell into that first category. And that's why I think he started getting these pedophilic tendencies, you know, loneliness, kind of becoming a bit crazy and depressed. And then, you know, he needs female attention, you know, he wants female attention, and the only way he can get it is through preying on underage minds, because you have to realize, I think, that a lot of the reason for pedophilia, especially the second type where you kind of grow into it in like a sick way, is, you know, their brains are underdeveloped. They're easy to take advantage of. It, you know, like kids, especially 13-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds even, a lot of times they don't even know what's going on. They don't know what's so wrong about it, and they, you know, they just don't even know how to react sometimes, you know. And even if you're getting sent all these explicit messages, it just doesn't, it's just not apparent in every child's mind what's really happening, if you know what I'm saying. And I think it's disgusting to think about, but I think personally that's partly how it works, you know. There are people who seem to be reveling in the fact that he's a pedophile, like, oh yes, we found out, but not for the right reasons, not for like, oh, you know, now it's gonna help and he's gonna go behind bars or whatever, because likelihood he's not. You know, a lot of people are just kind of reveling in this to revel in it, if you get what I mean. Ooh, EDP's a pedophile, time to make my memes, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with making memes about EDP, but you know, ooh, EDP's a pedophile, time to make my memes, time to make my jokes, time to, you know, just like, for example, those predator catcher people, what they did, it only worsened the situation, because the way they went about it, they basically harassed him, right, which makes it harder in the court of law to prosecute him. I'm sure you've heard that point before. Everyone's talked about this. I know I'm late to the boat. You know, I think if we want to avoid situations like EDP, all right, we need to stop elevating people like him to such a high level. Like, a lot of people could tell EDP was unstable before the whole pedophile thing, but we kept endorsing it and we kept kind of pumping him up in this very bad way, you know, that I think gave him a false sense of ego while being lonely and while whatever, and it just wasn't good for him. Instead of doing that and kind of perpetuating a situation, what we need to do is rather go, damn, this guy needs help, and maybe bring attention to that rather than, you know, kind of egging on this guy to keep making funny content until something bad happens. I'm not saying what EDP became is like other people's fault, but I'm saying there is a role that every factor has to play in it, and I think we need to be conscious of that. I don't know. Anyway, if you disagree with me, let me know in the comments. If you agree with me, let me know in the comments. With all my videos like this, it's always just to kind of broaden perspectives, to open a conversation, and that includes mine as well. Maybe you think I'm totally off the mark, and that is fine by me. Let me know. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.